And so you haven't used BDRs in the past. Let's kind of pivot the conversation and talk to me about why no BDRs when you're the company that trains BDRs?
Yeah, it is admittedly pretty ironic. And it goes back to our overall sales philosophy. And again, that's a fancy way of just looking at what has worked for us historically and not being willing to take on an inordinate level of risk to start trying different things. Again, going back to, the type of business that we are and how we're building it. We had proven both pre-COVID and post-COVID that building a sales organization around a relationship-based type of sale was scalable for us and was going to continue to be successful for us to an extent. We're able to pretty accurately forecast around it, even though it sounds weird to be able to forecast, number of referrals that you might receive. I know that's, that might be tough for other organizations to do. For us internally, we were able to sort of dial that in, right? So that's something that we could plan around. And even when we went out and started building our sales team and building our marketing team, if you take a look at what we're doing internally and how we're continuing to sort of pour gasoline on that fire that I mentioned a few moments ago, it is still all revolving around a relationship-based sale, a community-led approach, which again, just by pure coincidence, as we see right now across the ecosystem, we see a whole lot of B2B tech companies that are taking a look at this type of approach, leveraging their customers and advocates in order to gain new customers and advocates as the best path to attain new logos and maybe also identify expansion revenue within their existing client base.
That's really interesting because I think an interesting perspective that you have is with so much access to all of these companies. I'm curious what you have seen, heard that's changed in sales in the last kind of 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, there's been a lot that has changed, and that will be an understatement. And for context, for those who are listening, is one of the things that we do here is every month we have a standing Zoom call, what we call a peer group call for the VPs of sales and the CROs of all the companies that we work with. So on a monthly basis, the whole point of that call is just for these leaders to come together, raise their hands in a group full of their peers and say, hey, here's what I'm working on. Here's what I'm struggling with. Are you seeing this, that, or the other thing? And it gives them the opportunity to exchange ideas and best practices in real time. The benefit that gives to us, as you alluded to, Colin, is we do kind of have this bird's eye view of like, hey, what are all these B2B software companies doing right now? What are the trends that we're seeing across the market? And what we saw beginning in Q3 of last year, obviously, as the economy shifted, you fast forward to Q1 of this year, things started getting a little bit better. Then it's like, oh, hey, why not throw a bank run, into the environment just to mess with everybody's day? We're seeing a lot of uncertainty around the viability of BDR teams or just cold outreach in general, right? And from our perspective, that seems to be driven by two factors. Number one, again, economic environment. It's getting much tougher just to get people on the phones or interested in having a conversation with you in general because budgets are tight. But number two, with the rise of AI and ChatGPT, now every organization, regardless what you sell or who you sell into, every organization has some sort of equivalent of a BDR team that could just crank out, halfway decent messaging and distribute that messaging at scale. So the space itself, regardless, again, of the vertical or industry that you sell into, it's gotten really noisy, right? So you see a lot of leaders that are trying to figure out right now, like, okay, how do we cut through the noise? And if we're not convinced that we could cut through this noise, does, the BDR function, does it really make sense for us anymore? And there are no clear answers to that right now, but these are the types of conversations that a lot of leaders across the space are having.